And you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Karl Rominger here, 540-0580, answering your legal questions. Give us a call, 540-0580. We got a new caller board in here, huh, Shane? So if I accidentally drop you, just call back because we have a new way of doing things around here, and it's the first time. So 540-0580, get your legal questions answered here on the air. I wanted to share with you, I got permission to share this, so there are no names. A client of mine had a jury trial not too long ago down in one of the counties, and one of the jurors called me to, tell me that he listens to the show, which I always appreciate to hear. And that B, he had deliberated, and that jury deliberated for, into the evening, up until past dinner time a little bit, and they went out before lunch. They were out quite a long time, and they reached a split decision where they acquitted my client of the most serious charges. And by the way, if you want to talk here on the air, ask your legal questions, 540-0580. They were out for a long time, and what he told me was when they first went out, one of the jurors goes, "Well, he's pretty guilty. I mean, I believe the victim." And somebody else says, "Yeah, let's get out of here. Let's get home." And then somebody else said, "Well, let's take a vote." And it was 10-2. And this fellow and one other fellow were on the not guilty side of the fence. And basically, when asked why, we were like, "Well, we just need to look this thing over a little bit." And then he said it scared the heck out of him how fast the other 10 folks were ready to just make an impression and vote guilty, because then what happened when they started talking about things, within about another 20 minutes, everybody started to bring up all kinds of problems with the case and wondering about various things and thinking about it and trying to figure out what was going on. And at that point, then the deliberation broke down into all those hours, and they eventually acquitted the guy of the two most serious charges. And what the juror was telling me, the most scary part for him, he said, was just that so many people were ready to vote guilty. Not that he didn't find my client. He said he slept well finding my client guilty of what he did and not guilty of what he did. But just that it scared him that people could so quickly and comfortably just vote guilty without even really deliberating or talking things over, and that it really did require some deliberation, some effort, because once they started talking, they all realized that they did harbor doubts about the case. So his concern, which he highlighted to me, which I thought was interesting, is, these jurors who ultimately voted not guilty, and we're very comfortable doing that. On first blush, we're also very comfortable simply saying guilty because everybody else seemed to be saying guilty. But then when they actually given a chance, they started to voice their concerns. So I just thought that was interesting. So if you're ever on jury duty, remember this. You've got a duty to deliberate towards finding the truth, and you've got a duty to give both sides a fair shake. And if it had been 10-2 to acquit or 10-2 to convict after that first vote, that discussion is what's important. So I encourage all my juries, and I'll encourage anybody who's ever on a jury to make sure that you spend at least a couple hours talking over a case. Imagine it this way. All the police effort that goes in, all the defense effort that goes in, all the man hours that go in, every jury deliberation should take at least an hour or more, because you've got 12 people. If everybody talks for 5 minutes continuously, that's an hour right there. So for everybody to even have 5 minutes of input into the conversation, you need to deliberate for at least an hour. So I would suggest that a jury deliberation of less than 2 hours could be fair, but it might not be. And let's see who I've got in the call line. 540-0580. Barb.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. This is what's happening. I just got a traffic ticket over a month ago. I was traveling 72 on a 55-mile speed limit zone on 81. So the trooper pulled me over, gave me the ticket, and I was by radar. So I decided to go to court to see, at least I paid the fine already. It's like $150, but the trooper told me it's not on the ticket, but he told me it's probably 3 to 4 points. Mm-hmm. So I decided to plead not guilty. I got a court date this Wednesday, and my question is, how do I handle it when I go to court? Do I have any chance? Does the judge have the authority to say, okay, you have a good record, you were cooperative to the trooper, I'm going to not give you any points. I mean, is that
Well,
possible, or how does it really work?
Yeah, it is possible, but let me explain it this way, and I'm a little amused only because I'm thinking of a story. I was sitting in a district justice's office with a police officer waiting for the judge to come back, talk about our case because we wanted to run a resolution by him. And the judge comes off the bench and comes back and goes, well, guy took the stand, said he was going the speed that the trooper said he was going, and said he didn't want the points, so I convicted him, and chuckled. You know, because the answer is his job isn't necessarily, if he wants to be strictly by the book, it's are you guilty or not guilty, and then we'll worry about the punishment later. And so the judge was just kind of chuckling like, you know, there was no case because the guy confessed. Now, sometimes people take the stand and they say, listen, I know the trooper says I was going 77, but I really don't think I was going a mile over 70. And sometimes the judge will resolve it on that basis and say, well, you know, there's a disagreement on speed, but you've at least admitted that you were going 70, so beyond a reasonable doubt, I'll set the speed at 70, which changes the, 5 or more miles over, and you're going to get 2 points, okay? I should say more than 6 miles over, or 10 miles over. Anyhow, long story short, trying to get no points, if you're 5 or less miles over, you're not going to have any points. You can also change it to another charge. But my point on this just is, just asking for mercy in other courtrooms works very well. Some judges are like, well, why did you take a hearing? You know, what is this really about? And you say, well, I just don't want the points. My kids are just getting on the car insurance, and I don't really want to have it jacked up for any other reason. You know, that sort of thing. Some judges will do that. Your best bet, though, is before the hearing starts to go to the trooper and say, I only took the hearing because I was concerned about the points. Can we resolve this in a way that doesn't give me any points? And then the trooper can either reduce the speed or change the charge, and then the judge will accept that as an agreement because that's prosecutorial discretion. And a lot of troopers will do that.
So right before the hearing, you talk to the trooper who's waiting there, for his turn, and you talk to him. It's not like trying to manipulate the system. I mean, no.
I mean, he's allowed to resolve it any way he wants. He didn't even have to write it in the first place, did he?
No, he didn't, but he did.
Right, but just because he did doesn't mean he can't undo it.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Right, and that's my point. He has broad discretion. He has what we call prosecutorial discretion.
Oh, okay.
So that's a very broad form of discretion that allows him to decide to charge you or not charge you. Now, here's the other thing. Remember this. Some police officers, very mechanical, very wooden, they're going to say, hey, I charged you, and this is just the way it is. But a majority of officers are just regular people like you and I, and they understand what it's like to raise a family and what it's like to have household bills. And if they look at your driver's record and it's clean and you have a legitimate, I don't want to have my insurance jacked up type concern, a lot of officers are sympathetic to that.
Okay.
And those guys are kind of underpaid for as hazardous as their jobs are. So.
Right.
All right.
So let's say I go to this trooper and he says, okay, I'll help you out. So then case taken care of.
Then the judge has got to sign off on it.
Okay, so you still appear before the judge, and
then the judge enters the penalty based on the charge you pled to.
Okay.
All right.
And then at what point does the trooper say, well, I decided to, because she has all the paperwork, the judge does. I mean,
right.
The trooper, he can say.
Trooper amends it. Yep.
Oh, okay. All righty.
All right.
And now let's say he says, I'm not going to do it.
Then you take a hearing. But that's where it probably pays to have a lawyer along. But if you don't get a deal, you can always appeal it to the court of call and pleas within 30 days and try again, this time with a lawyer or a district attorney involved.
Okay.
All right, Barb.
All right, thank you.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
How am I dropping this thing, Shay? I think I did it. Did I do it right? I did it. All right. 540-0580. Karl Rominger here answering your legal questions. When we come back, we'll talk with somebody else. Hey, welcome back. Karl Rominger here, 540-0580. Answering your legal questions here on WHP 580 and WLAN 1390. Let's see. Gene.
Hi, Karl. How are you doing today?
Good. What's going on?
Well, I live in a town here in Pennsylvania that decided it was a good idea to get rid of the police force this past week.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so some of the town members were wondering what recourses we have because things have been brought up regarding the Sunshine Act, and they also want to know what we can do about forcing part of the board members out.
Well, first thing I can tell you is the Sunshine Act requires all meetings be in public except for executive sessions.
Which what they're saying is this was printed in the Patriot News in the classifieds, buried in the classified section, either the day before or the day of the meeting.
And I think they met their bare minimum, but there was an argument about some secret meeting ahead of time, and I can tell you, the lack of a quorum does protect them. So sometimes when we're negotiating with a township, what we'll do, like let's say you want to get some kind of variance from the township or some agreement with the township supervisors hammered out. If we have a three-member board, for instance, which is less than what you have up there,
right?
We would just get one of them in a room with counsel and then myself and my client, and we negotiate it out that way with that person to take it back to the board. But there's no sunshine law violation because there's no quorum.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like they could have their pregame meeting without any problem. Whether or not the advertising was good or not, it either is or it isn't. So I'm not familiar with the exact regulation on how much timing there has to be on the public notice. But if there's a violation of the Sunshine Act, you could undo what they did. Excuse me, and they can be in trouble. But if otherwise, your only political solution is to vote them out. I don't believe we have a recall mechanism here in Pennsylvania. It's not like California where we can recall the governor or something like that.
So pretty much the town is stuck with them unless we can prove that they performed an illegal act doing it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, interestingly. I mean, I understand it's a big deal up there, although I did look, you had 2 part-time officers, right?
They're claiming they're part-time, but I personally don't know whether they were part-time or full-time.
Right. I heard it was 2 part-time, and I'm figuring that's only 40 hours of coverage anyhow. So you guys were without police 2/3 of the time as it was, except for the state police. So while it is a big deal, it doesn't sound like you lost. It's not like they disbanded the Carlisle police force and we lost like 30 officers, So the coverage by the state police shouldn't be that hard to pick up. And fortunately, you guys are right by the barracks, so at least there's some consolation there.
Right, but a lot of the town people here will tell you that it is a big deal because there are times when it takes the state police, because they have to cover the entire county. Right. It can take them a lot longer to get here than the 2 local police. Which I can believe.
And, of course, there's no crime up there, right?
There's never any crimes in small towns.
Except, that's as a lawyer, I'll say it's always a blow to us, too, because we need those guys out there ferreting out crime, so we have some work to do.
Right.
But seriously, no, I always like dealing with the Newport Police Department up there, so I never had any real problems with them. And, of course, the district judge up there for years was Pete Howell, who's been replaced now. I'm trying to remember the guy that's in there now. You guys have always had good district judges, a pretty good system up there. So I'm not exactly sure what the local politics were, but it is kind of interesting that so many people were surprised by it.
It's because they pulled this as a surprise. The other thing is when they did this, they barred a vote from one of the board members. He works during the day, and one of the board members said, well, let's call him and get his vote, and they said no.
Which I guess they don't have to because technically he's not there, right?
Well, he had informed the board that he cannot do any daytime meetings, so they deliberately held this when he could not attend.
Yeah, interesting.
And the month before, they had allowed somebody to phone in a vote.
High politics. How many people are in that town up there? Do you know?
In the town itself, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a few thousand, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. And but you have all that. Everybody always thinks about who they're going to vote for president, but remember who your township supervisor is makes a lot bigger difference in your local quality of life, as well as your local zoning and the value of your property and all those good things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you have any good recourse, though.
Okay. Well,
All right,
that's why I figured you might know what our recourses might be, so that's why I thought I would ask a few questions.
You do have the biggest recourse of all, that, which is the ballot box. And
but the problem
it's a little ways away.
Right. The problem is they've already, a lot of them were voted in last year, which means they've got several years left. That's why we're asking, well, do we have any recourse since they were just voted in? And I know it's more than a one-year term.
Everybody who voted for them has to go back and go, did I just pull the party lever? Did I actually pay attention to who they were? Did I ask them what they stood for? And maybe this will be a good lesson for the democracy up there. That's best I can tell you. All right, my friend, take care.
Have a good day, Carl.
All right, bye. See if I get this right here. Okay. JD, you're on the air with Karl Rominger. My talk line number is 540-0580. What's going on, brother?
Hey, good talking to you, Karl. Hey, I just recently invested in a 2-unit apartment, and I was just wondering, am I obligated to honor the existing lease? Can I change the lease?
The long story short is, I believe when you buy an existing building and you're going to change the use, you can break the lease. But if you're going to continue to use it, I think you can't break the lease. I think that's the right answer. Somebody had asked me this last week, too, and I've been mulling it over.
Mm-hmm.
So you can break a lease when you're going to change the use of the property. So the classic one is somebody's renting a house to somebody. I buy it wanting to move in there. That's going to change the use. I can break the lease.
I got you.
If I'm going to keep it as a rental, I believe the lease runs with the land for that purpose.
Mm-hmm. How can I find out for sure?
Well, if you keep listening, by 2 o'clock during the breaks, I'll figure out the answer.
Okay.
That work?
That'll work.
All right.
I was listening anyway.
I got to do a little, well, good. I got to do a little research. So what I'll do during the breaks is just pop on my computer and pull up the landlord-tenant law and take a look at it. I'm pretty sure that's the answer. I think that's the conclusion I came to. But I don't want you to make a huge business decision based on that until we get a little more solid.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
All right, my friend.
Appreciate it.
540-0580, Karl Rominger here. Andy, you're on the line.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Karl. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
I have a quick question for you regarding getting a title for an older vehicle which has not been registered since the early 70s.
Okay.
And I was just basically wondering what was involved in getting a title. I had heard a couple people tell me a couple different things, including registering it in another state and then transferring the title here. But I wasn't exactly sure how to proceed. That was my question.
Well, the vehicle should have a VIN number of some sort associated with it, right?
It does.
And so what you need to do is find where that VIN's title originally rested, if you can.
Okay.
And
yeah, because it's a 1960 vehicle.
Right. And if you can't, as long as it has a VIN number, you may be able to recreate a title. I think there's a judicial action for that. And honestly, about 2 years ago, we had a pile of questions about this, maybe a year and a half ago. And we did some research on it. And I know that if you go to PennDOT, to their website, they have forms for use and some explanation of the various ways to retitle a car. The single greatest problem people run into is if you don't have a VIN, then it's almost impossible to recreate a car from scratch, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I know that. So the common problem is a guy rebuilds, let's say, an old Ford Thunderbird, and he has no VIN number for it, nothing with a good title.
Yeah.
He can't then register it as a Ford Thunderbird. Does Ford make a Thunderbird? I don't know. Yeah, so I thought I was right on that. So he can't then register it as that car because it doesn't. You're not allowed to do that. He could register it as like a custom homemade car sort of deal, but that obviously changes your value. So as long as you have a VIN number, you got to track down that title, and if you can get a good title to go with that VIN number. The other thing that people do, and it's kind of weird, but sometimes they have a title and a part that has a VIN number on it. So guys on the internet will sell you a dashboard that comes with a VIN number.
Yeah. I have both identifying plates on the vehicle.
Right.
It says with the VIN number. The only thing that I got back from PennDOT was what they had told me to do was go to a local common pleas court and try to get somebody to assign me through the bill of sale I have as a proof of ownership.
So you just why don't you get a court order? So we petition the court and say, here's the bill of sale. Title was never transferred. We've done a search. We can't find it. And then the judge decrees that you're the owner of it, and then PennDOT will give you a title based on the VIN, right?
So I actually guess I have to get an appointment before a judge then? Or?
Yeah, you have to actually file something in front of the judge. So we would file a petition, and there's just a short petition with the judge basically laying out why you need a title. Here's how we got in this circumstance, Judge. PennDOT's told me to see you, and then if the judge wants to exercise his or her discretion, they then order that the car belongs to you, and that it's VIN number such and such automobile is now yours, and then PennDOT will accept that order of court.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the information, Karl. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Good luck.
All right. Thanks.
All right. I got to go to break here. 540-0580. Karl Rominger here answering your legal questions. We'll be back keeping on the air until 3 today. Welcome back. Karl Rominger here, 540-0580. Just answering your legal questions here on the air. Whatever you guys want to talk about. Divorce, child custody, neighbor's tree in your yard, all kinds of things. Which, that reminds me. I got a whole sheet full of stuff here. November 3rd, Mark Virginis will be with us from 2 to 3 p.m. here on Weekend Appointment. We'll be talking about financial things. So if you've got a question that involves finances, money, world economy, retirement, stuff like that, tune in November 3rd at 2 o'clock, and Mark will come on the air, and he's going to answer those, and we'll have a nice discussion, as we always do. On November 11th, I'm going to be with Bob Carey on Garden Talk from 11:30 to 12:30. That's on Sunday. If you go to the website, romingerlaw.com, you can see the call letters where you can listen to that. On November 17th, Keystone Elder Law will be back from 2 to 3 p.m. So right there before Thanksgiving, trying to think. Is that the Saturday before Thanksgiving, Shane? All right. I might be hunting in New York. I'm not sure yet. So if that's the case, I'm just going to let him take over the show. We'll talk to him about that. We may let Keystone Elder Law take over the show so Karl can go hunting in New York. We'll see. December 11th, Northern York County Fish and Game will be discussing gun rights, gun laws with a question and answer session. That's on 40 Bremer Road, New York, PA. So December 11th, it'll be open to the public, Northern York County Fish and Game. Honored to be invited down there to talk, so hopefully you guys will come on out. I did one at the Harrisburg Hunters and Anglers this past September. I thought that went real well. Yeah, that was my second annual sojourn there. And, of course, if you do have a club or organization, a fishing game club to like, just call us here, call the office, ask for Shane, and he'll get you me out there in some evening to talk about whatever you want to talk about. 540-0580 if you want to talk here on the air today. And let's see, line 1 is Dan. Dan, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
Listen, it's kind of a complicated situation. My girlfriend went to her sister's house because her sister's boyfriend had beat her up. Okay. He, in turn, beat my girlfriend up, which I had to take her to the hospital. And she had bruising on her spine, bruises all over her body. She could barely move. At which point, she filed charges against the guy. Now, the police officer that handled it was a rookie. Literally had been on the force for less than 6 months.
Right.
And didn't take any of the pictures, hospital records, evidence, nothing to the district justice office, and the case got dismissed because of it. Is there any recourse at this point?
Well, the charges can be refiled. The dismissal does not. I say it's very important. A dismissal does not equate with a not guilty, okay? An acquittal.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I would strongly urge you to go to the officer's superiors or even the district attorney's office and say, here's what happened, and we want another crack at the apple.
Okay.
It's not double jeopardy. No double jeopardy applies, so that guy can still be reached.
Okay, because at this point, she has thousands of dollars in medical bills from going to the hospital.
Right.
And I believe that he should be liable for that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy. You can also file a civil suit against him, and that's your other option.
Okay, and the burden of proof is less in a civil suit.
Correct. It's like the old O.J. situation. Of course, the ability to collect is a little more difficult, too. But
it did happen at his house, at this guy's personal...
Does he own a house? Does he own the house?
Yeah, he owns the house.
Is he married or no? No, obviously not.
No, they're not married.
Okay, well, yeah. Sue him and get a judgment. Happy to help you with that if you want.
Okay, maybe I should have her call you then.
Yeah, always happy to work on one of those. You know, there sometimes can be a pain, but other times they can be profitable. That's the first thing we usually like to figure out is a way to secure the money and then go from there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know he's homeowner, or at the very least.
Well, the problem with homeowners is they don't cover intentional acts. So then we have to get a little more coy, you know, as to what really happened. You know, so if he just walks out on the porch, here's an example. We had one of these cases years ago. This was the issue. Guy and his wife are fighting, right? Another guy walks over, and this was at a hotel, like at a bar hotel with the big porch outside, right? Other guy walks over, and the guy essentially pushes our client off the porch as he's trying to intervene, okay? And the insurance company's saying, well, we don't have to cover because he was in the middle of assaulting this woman, which is an intentional act, and then he assaulted this guy, which is an intentional act, and we don't cover intentional acts. And our position was, well, actually, he was assaulting the woman, but in the course of assaulting the woman, he pushed the guy off the porch, but it was never his intent. He just wanted to move him out of the way so he could get to the woman, and he was negligent in how he moved him out of the way. And while his ultimate object was to assault somebody else, he was just trying to get through this person to get there.
Okay.
And then you assert that in what we call declaratory judgment because the insurance company's denying coverage. And then all of a sudden, now, this is where it gets really strange. You end up in a courtroom, right, with the insurance company for the assaultor sitting in one corner, and then the guy who was pushed off the porch and the guy who pushed him off the porch sitting at the same table going, no, Judge, it was just a big accident. I pushed him, but I didn't mean to. And they're both on the same team all of a sudden because they're trying to get coverage in the declaratory judgment action. So go figure.
Oh, wow. It's just so weird the way the law's written.
Yeah, well, you think about it this way. How would you like an insurance policy that reads like this? We're going to give you insurance against any harm you do to anybody. And when you go down to the bar tonight and you just want to start beating the heck out of some guy at the pool table, well, we're going to cover whatever damage you do. And that's why they don't cover intentional acts, because that's something where you could it would be rife for abuse, number one, and number two, it's bad public policy. We don't want to encourage you to go out there and just start beating on people.
Right, yeah.
So, and of course, once the insurance company has a potential exclusion, they're always going to look at it because that's what they're in the business of doing, collecting your money and then excluding payment.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
Is there any, do you have a number or anything that I can?
Yeah, let me give you the law office number is 241-6070. That's in the 717 area code. So it's 717-241-6070.
Okay.
And romingerlaw.com, which is ROMINGER law.com, in case you want to look up anything else about us in the meantime.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, brother.
Bye-bye.
540-0580. Let's see. Michelle, you're on the air.
Oh, it's Rachel.
Rachel.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah. What do you know about governmental immunity?
Well, in which context?
Well, a couple weeks ago, the township was working on our sewer, and they did something during a storm, and the storm water and sewage ran into our house, and just our house, and then their insurance company claimed governmental immunity, and so our insurance had to pay it.
Right.
And they didn't have to do anything.
Governmental immunity applies to the sovereign, the king, okay, which is Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, every municipality is a creation of the king. They're just like little kings. And so there's a statute that gives 9 exemptions from sovereign immunity where the state has said we will be responsible even though we're not really responsible. So you can't sue the king unless the king consents. So what the king has done ahead of time is say, for instance, that if a township vehicle runs you over or you trip on a sidewalk from the township is negligently maintained, then that you will be able to collect because we will waive our sovereign immunity. There's a bunch of other exceptions as well. but unfortunately they're very technical. So I'll give you an example. We've had this one before. Guy's in prison and he gets cut on the table saw, right? And the table saw was negligently maintained. Uh-huh. Well, it's not an automobile, and it's not a fixture to real estate, therefore it's not part of the real estate. So the prison says, well, hey, just because we negligently maintained the table saw and this guy got his fingers chopped off by it, a prisoner there who we were having in the workshop work on something, doesn't mean we have any liability because it's neither a car, so we don't get under that exception, and it's not part of the real estate, so we don't get under the real estate exception, and it doesn't fit any of the other technical exceptions. They have governmental immunity. Now, in another case, somebody else got hurt by something at the prison, and somebody says, well, it was bolted to the floor, so once you bolt it to the floor, it becomes a fixture, and then there's a fight over what's really a fixture to real estate or not. So they will aggressively, if you're getting the picture here, they will aggressively offer up their defenses as they become available. But yeah, so now your insurance company paid. Now, are they going to raise your insurance as a result of that?
They said they don't because they understand governmental immunity.
Right. And in other words, what they're saying is this is something we agree. This is, see, I was making fun of insurance companies a minute ago, but some of them actually are, customer friendly. What they're saying is, we realize you didn't do this. We realize there's nothing we could do to punish you that would make you more careful in the future. And unfortunately, we can't reach these guys because they're not going to do the right thing and pay.
Right.
Now, there's a reason for sovereign immunity, and that's because theoretically, if we let everybody sue the government, that's just like taking from ourselves.
Right, because we pay taxes.
Yeah. All right. Is that the best answer I can give you?
Okay, all right. So it is fair and...
Well, it does sound correct. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah, right.
Fair is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
All right.
All right, thank
Take
you.
care.
Right, bye.
540-0580, Karl Rominger here. Had a nice tasty venison loin for lunch before I got here. You can see a picture of that on Facebook. I'll see you guys in a minute. Hey, welcome back. 540-0580. Karl Rominger here answering your legal questions. We've got a full board, so let's get it moving here. Steve, you're on the air.
Steve? Yes.
Yep. What's going on?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Long-time listener, first-time caller, and your timing's impeccable. I was able to get to where I'm at, so I don't have to drive and talk. Listen, 2010 April, my wife of 10 years passed away. She and I owned property together, the home that we lived in. At the time, the information I was working on at the time was that when a spouse passes away, even with a will, and she did have a will, the property automatically passes to the surviving spouse. Having said that, I've decided now after a couple of years that I'm not going to return to the property to live in. In fact, at the moment it's vacant.
Right.
And I've decided to, and I've recently placed it on the market. Is there any advantage for me to go to the trouble of transferring title from myself and the estate of to just myself prior to settlement, the eventual settlement?
I mean, you can do it by a deed, right?
Right.
So if there's an open estate and you were the executor of the estate, you could sign an executor's deed. But by operational law, if you guys were joint tenants with right of entireties, which you would have been, then all they're going to need to see at the closing is a death certificate.
Right.
So what would be the theory of why to transfer it to yourself at this point?
Well, I wasn't sure. I had gotten not conflicting, but obviously just some different opinions on what I should do. I don't really see any need to make that if I bring a death certificate to
closing,
the settlement at closing. Even though because my real estate bills come to me now in my name and in the estate of. So I assumed then at that point, because I didn't transfer the title only to myself, that the estate is still open, or just in the matter of this property? Yeah,
just in the matter of this property, but really the property never went to the estate. So actually, I think the death certificate is all you really need. And whoever buys it is going to take care of it. Do you see what I mean? They're going to make sure they have what they want.
Right. Well, it's a great time to buy property, but a lousy one to sell, and it's hard to believe that after all these years I'm going to walk away with just a little bit of dough, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, it is the worst time to sell. It's not as bad as Florida, though.
No, you have to be careful when you complain because so many other people have it so much worse. And I'm going to walk away with a few $1,000s and a smile on my face when I know that there's so many people that can't do that. So I'm grateful.
I sat in a pool one time listening to these guys, and the one guy's like, well, I bought one of these places, 30 years ago for $50,000. And then the other guy's like, well, I bought mine 4 years ago for $216,000. And then the other guy goes, I bought mine a year ago for $130,000. And they're all like the same units,
Yeah.
And that's the curve of and then when they fell all the way down to about $40,000 after that. So go figure.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I've been very blessed, and I'm glad that I called in to get a good answer, Karl.
Yeah,
you
don't
have
to do really any work. And here's this I always tell people this too. If there's a title problem, the buyer's going to identify that and most likely give you time to remedy it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really see any title issue here. And I do get this question quite often because when people pass, they want to know, should I clean up the deed? And the answer is they're going to charge you a filing fee plus, so it doesn't make sense to spend money filing a piece of paper you don't have to file.
Right, because it's not money that I'm even going to be able to recoup anyway, so
Right.
It's just money down the drain.
Right, so let the other side take care of the deed.
All right, sounds good, Karl.
All right, brother.
Thank you so much.
All right, man, take care.
God bless.
540-0580. Let's say line 2. Pete, you're on the air.
Hey, how are you, Karl?
Good.
I have a question pertaining to escrow that I think was kind of stolen from us. Actually, over a period of 3 years, we were overcharged in the escrow account by about $13,000. And we tried to, get the money, and they kept giving us the runaround. And lo and behold, they end up being in bad financial shape, and someone else buys them up. Next thing you know, they are saying that they were going to apply it to our PMI. Well, we have excellent credit, and we never missed a payment on the mortgage, and just wondering if there's any recourse for us.
Well, I mean, yeah, basically, if they took money that they shouldn't have or overfunded the escrow account, is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, correct.
Correct. Then, yeah, they can't. There's some formulas and what's reasonable, so they should owe you back the difference. Now, what they're trying to say? Well, we did collect extra money, so we're just going to knock down your PMI?
Yeah, right. No, they for some reason applied it to a PMI, which we didn't even know existed.
Interesting. So they were. So we'd have to look and see if you had a PMI at the beginning, right?
We can't find it in the contract. And my wife, she documented everything, all the calls over a period of 3 years. That we tried to. They kept giving us runaround. Oh, I'm not the right person. This and that, and it was just a big hassle.
Right. Interesting. I don't know what to tell you, my friend, except that we'd have to do a little, say, forensic accounting, so to speak, look at everything, look through the contract, and then stake a position out with them that they owe you a refund. And then ultimately, if they don't, maybe sue them. And I'm thinking maybe you would have some ability to sue. Okay. Maybe some statutory authority somewhere to get some kind of additional damages. I think that's probably where you really need to be. But you think it's like $13,000? Yes,
exactly.
So that's a lot of money to just let lay.
Right.
I mean, between you and me, I probably would just want to sue over $13. So $13,000. Now, the realistic thing, if it's only $1,000 or $2,000, your legal costs might be consumed. But if we can find a consumer statute or a violation of, I don't know, I'm just saying this, like RESPA or one of these property-based or Fair Debt Collection Practices Act type claims with some statutory damages, then you may be able to get your legal fees as well as some other damages. So it may be worth more than $13,000.
Right. Now, is that something that your office does, or?
Well, it's not something we've done before, but we'd be happy to look into it for you.
Okay, great. And then just call your office?
Yep. It's 717-241-6070. The office number again is 717-241-6070. Or you can just go to romingerlaw.com to look us up at your convenience.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right, my friend. Take care.
You too.
All right, guys. Who is on the line right now? Just hang on. We got another hour here to answer your legal questions, so I'll be back. I will take care of them. As you know, I'm Karl Rominger. I'm here to answer your legal questions. So, again, if you got a legal question, 540-0580. I'll be answering them here on the air from 2 to 3.